All right, let's start off by saying Barakateh Hawa, Ba'ashem Shai, Ba'ashem Chakodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is E is in everybody's business or in everyone's business. And pretty much, I was just trying to find a lesson to go into. And I just started looking up a couple of a couple of scriptures. And I started, as I was looking through some of the precepts, I decided to do a lesson based off of this because these devils, they've been in everybody's business for a long time. They've been in everybody's country, dictating to everyone what they should do and how they should do it and what the best, plan is for them. And meanwhile, the home front of America, Babylon the Great, is in shambles, pretty much. And it's going to come a point where, the nations, or it's already there, that the nations don't really respect America anymore. They don't respect America's policies, they don't respect America's ways, and they don't respect America's authority anymore. And that's that's one of the things that's going to cause this place to crumble and collapse. As we speak right now, I believe they said Russia and China have decided to, cut the U.S. dollar out. So you know what that means. That means this place is going to falter and fall apart. You're going to have your inflation, hyperinflation, so on and so forth. You're already witnessing that with all the different prices out here for goods. It's getting worse and worse out here for people. People can barely survive, and they're just scratching and scraping just to get by. So this scripture came to mind. I read it, and then another precept came to mind. So I'm just gonna go in the spirit, see how this is gonna work. But this is the book of Psalm 73, and Psalm 73 is a very good chapter to go into, dealing with Esau. Which, of course, those of you that have been learning know that that's the so-called white man. Those that don't know, that are just coming in, tuning in, just starting to learn. Whenever you read about Esau, the Edomites, that's the so-called white people, the so-called Europeans. That's their true biblical nationality. All right. It says this is Psalm 73 and 9. They set their mouth against the heavens, and these devils do that every day. They speak against the heavens. They speak against the Most High. Everything that they do is against the Heavenly Father. Every policy, every law, every statute, that the Lord set forth in His scriptures, these devils go totally against it. But this is the main part right here. It says, "And their tongue walketh through the earth," because they're like it says in let me pull up another one. It says in the book of Habakkuk, which you go to a lot because it's important as far as biblical prophecy is concerned. Habakkuk 2 and 5. It says, "Yea, also because he transgressed by wine." This is dealing with his philosophies, his democracy, and all of that comes along with it. It says, "He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home." And that's the point. Their pride is one thing. How we know also that the so-called white man is Esau, because the scriptures speak about Esau's pride and how their pride has deceived them. But on top of all of that, it says, "Neither keepeth at home." Because you have these different military bases all over the planet, and these devils don't stay here. They're always out there venturing, trying to conquer more lands, and that's one of the things that brought down the ancient Roman Empire, which today America is a revival of the ancient Roman Empire. The ancient Roman Empire, they went out conquering so much that they ran out of resources to pay their soldiers, so they had to devalue the currency in order to pay the soldiers. And eventually that's one of the things that caused the collapse of the ancient Roman Empire. And plus their military, was stretched too far. It was stretched too thin, and it was impossible to really defend all parts of the empire because they were spread too thin. So the Lord used that as one of the ways to destroy them. That along with their economy, which is exactly what's happening here in America. Now, America, as far as is known, has about 800 bases all around the world. They say it's up to 1,000. It's like 100, that are clandestine but not so clandestine, and then there's another 100 that's supposed to be really hidden. So altogether, it's about 1,000, probably a little more than 1,000 bases all over the planet. So how are you able to pay for all of these things when the whole system, the economic system of America is collapsing here? Every day everything's being devalued, and this is why you see prices rising. Prices are not rising because goods are that much more expensive than they were a year or two ago, or 10 ago, or 20 ago. The reason why prices are rising is because the value of the dollar, or the monetary system of America is being devalued. So it takes more of those paper dollars to pay for something that you could have paid for half the price last year. So it says, neither keepeth at home, who enlarges his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. And this is eventually what's going to be the catalyst of destroying this place. So when we go back to Psalm 73 and 9, they set their mouth against the heavens, and their tongue walketh through the earth. This other precept came to mind, which I'm going to read the point, because we're going to go back to it, to this same scripture. But I just want to read the main point. This is Daniel chapter 7 and verse 8. And those of you that are not familiar with the book of Daniel 7, Daniel 7 chapter is a prophetic book that spoke about four major empires. It really five, with the Assyrians, but four major empires that would rule and fall before the Messiah, Yahushua, would, rule on the earth. And those of you that know, if you don't know, the four major empires, which is what these different symbols and animalistic symbols represent in the book of Daniel 7, which are four. It represents, the Assyrio-Babylonian Empire, the Medo-Persian Empire, the Greek Empire, and the Roman Empire. And once the Roman Empire would fall, it would actually come back into power later on, and that second coming of that empire would usher in the end of the world when Yahushua comes back to proclaim his throne. And we know that the ancient Roman Empire fell. So why isn't the kingdom established when it says that once this fourth beast falls, the kingdom would be established? Well, it's because you had another little horn that would eventually come back up and pretty much rule in the same fashion as the ancient Roman Empire. And that's what America is. America is that little horn. So when we read in Psalm 73, the last part of the 9th verse is, and their tongue walketh through the earth. So here in Daniel 7 and 8, it says, I consider the horns, dealing with the 10 horns, which represent today the European Union. Used to be called the EEC, or the European Economic Community, right? Which was the original members were 6 members that eventually, got up to 12. And really, when you look at the 12, it's really 10, because that's prophecy. It says, and there's a lot of other points that go with that. But it says, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, and that little horn was who? America. It comes out of the whole union of the 7 heads and the 10 horns. Right? It says, before whom there were 3 of the first plucked up by the roots. And if you understand the history of America and how it was established and the wars that it fought wars against Britain, against Spain, and against France. All right? And those are the three horns that America plucked up out of here, out of this country, in order to, take over. And this is why you have English names on certain parts of the country, you have Spanish names on certain parts of the country, and you have French names on certain parts of the country. All right? And those are the three. It says, before whom there were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots. Right, because they've got them out of here. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. And that's what brought to mind when I read this part in Psalm 73 and 9 towards the end. And their tongue walketh through the earth. And this is what they've been doing. They've been bragging. They've been boasting. They've been, popping off, for lack of better words. And the nations are getting tired of this hope. And the nations now have technology to where America just can't roll on them any way they want to. They have to roll on them with more respect, because they have the same power, the same technology to take this place out. And some of those nations are not afraid to use that weaponry. So America has to tread lightly. Before it didn't have to tread lightly. Now it has to tread lightly. They were used to being the bully on the block, so to speak. And eventually what happened was the Lord caused all of these nations to start to, receive or build up their arsenal in order to be strong enough to be able to stand up against the bully of America, Babylon the Great. Joel 3 and 9 says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. And when you prepare war, you have to have the military men, you have to have the finances, and you have to have the weapons of war to fight. And these nations have built up their arsenal enough to where they can be a formidable opponent along with other allies to fight against America, Babylon the Great. It says, wake up the mighty men, which the mighty men represent all the men of war. Let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Why? Because the Lord is gathering these nations over there in that region of land that the scholars call the Fertile Crescent, all up in that area, because that's going to be the final battle set with all these militaries that the Bible calls Armageddon or the Valley of Jehoshaphat. Then it says, beat your plowshares into swords. So take your agricultural tools and make swords out of it. Take the finances you would use to buy agricultural tools and buy weapons with it. It says, and your pruning hooks into spears, same thing. Then it says, let the weak say, I am strong. Because at one time they were weak. So what is it that made them strong? Well, what made them strong was the ability to have an arsenal now that can rival America. But they couldn't do it on their own. This is why the scriptures speak about Russia being a guard unto these particular other nations. And it's not a coincidence that these nations, like Iran and others, that some of them have military, some of them have nuclear capabilities. Some of them are, building up their hypersonic missile arsenal, so on and so forth. So now it's not like it used to be. So America being the bully on the block, now that these other nations have, been equipped with the latest technology, America is not so much of a threat anymore as she used to be, right? So let's go from there. Let's go to the book of Jeremiah. I found this interesting. This one precept that came into mind. But let me read up a little bit above that. Right, I'm going to start here. Jeremiah 50 and 21. It says, go up against the land of Merathaim, which is like a nickname for Babylon. In this case, America, which means pretty much, it means bitter, It says, even against it and against the inhabitants of Pekod, which the word Pekod is also, a name is also another nickname for America, which I believe the word Pekod goes back to the Hebrew word, the meaning of it means visitation. Because this place that is bitter that's going to become bitter is going to be visited by the Most High Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Waste and utterly destroy after them. Why? Because that's the final, stage that the Lord has set. It is to destroy this place completely. Saith the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, because it's the Lord that's saying this. And do according to all that I have commanded thee, because this is the supreme instructions of the Almighty Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai. So it says, a sound of battle is in the land and of great destruction, right? Because they're starting to prepare for these things. This is why you're hearing the drums of war being sounded, and America, might get into it with Iran, or Iran might get into it with Israel, and America, might be mixing it up with Russia and China. These are wars, rumors of wars, but all of these things it's like I believe they call it the preliminaries. When you have a boxing match, and before the boxing match comes on, they interview both boxers, and they have weigh-ins, and they have all of these different, advertisements of these particular fights prior to the actual fight night. All right, so that's what we're seeing right now. It's like the preliminaries to this major war that's going to take place. And by the way, that movie, A Dog and His Boy, or Boy and His Dog, 1975 with Don Johnson, that was featured, the poster was featured in the movie Book of Eli. Right in there, it spoke about, the first scene started off with a nuclear blast. But then during the movie, they were talking about, they said on the caption, it says that World War IV lasted for 5 days or something like that, which there's not going to be no such thing as World War IV. World War III is going to be a fast war, because, they have the type of capabilities that they have, which is nuclear, is going to end the fight a lot quicker than it did when they had to fight on the ground. So once the MOTB, which is the micro-CF, is established, then that war is going to move a lot faster. All right? And even this guy Einstein said, I don't know what weapons World War III is going to be fought with, because he was alive during a time when when these scientists, Manhattan Project and others, were putting together the technology of these, bombs, nuclear, atomic, hydrogen, so on and so forth. And he saw that, and he said, I don't know what weapons World War III is going to be fought with, but I know World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. In other words, the technology that they have to fight World War III is going to reduce this place back to the Stone Ages, as it were. Right? Because that's what's going to set everything back in order. And once that last war is fought, which is World War III, which the scriptures speak about 3 wars, then this place is going to be returned back to, how it was in the ancient world. And one of the things that we're going to be doing, Lord's will, we be the elect that be delivered in the first go, is go with spiritual power. We're going to go around the world and destroying any of the weapons that are left with nuclear. With spiritual power. Nothing. We ain't gonna be doing nothing. We're just gonna be burning them with spiritual power, and getting rid of any arsenal, any tank, plane, helicopter, missile, whatever is left on the planet is gonna get burnt up. Right now, this is the key point right here. In verse 23, how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder? And this is the big bully on the block. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? Now, what I did was, just for, to be curious, I looked up the word hammer, and the word hammer comes from the Hebrew word patayash. Patayash, right? It says forge hammer, then hammer. And as you read further down into the Strong's definition, it says intensively from an unused root meaning to pound, a hammer. Hammer, right? We're going to get back to that. When we go down to the Brown Driver Briggs lexicon, right, it says figurative of Babylon as destroyer. All right, so remember we read Just bear with me 1 second. Let me just go back to it. So we read there in the Strong's definition, intensively from an unused root meaning to pound. All right. And what this brought to mind when I read that is the book of Daniel 7 once again, but we're going to start at the 7th verse now, and this being the fourth beast, which represents the Roman Empire. It says, and I saw this in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible. This fourth beast is the Roman Empire. And even when you go to certain blue letter, the newer ones, they usually break down what those four are. It says, and this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. These great iron teeth is a representation of their military might, and they were one of the empires that really put iron into use. So the iron teeth, or great iron teeth, represents their military power, their military might, and how they would go around the world and do what they were able to do. It says, it devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet thereof. And this is what came to mind when I read that part about the hammer and the pounding. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it. So they stamped, out the opponents. They were able to stomp them out, Yeah, inside joke. But let's look up this word stamp. Let's see what it says. The word for stamped is rapas. Rapas. Right? So stamped is rapas, which means to tread, trample, treading, trampling, stamp. Right down here in the Jacinia's Hebrew Chaldee lexicon, it says to trample down. So let me go back here. Let's see what comes up when we look up the word stamped, just to see. Nice. Let's see. Stamped. Let's try a definition. All right, stamp. It just says stamp. Bring down one's foot, see, heavily on the ground or on something on the ground. And then when you would hear the Roman, military marching, it was like they were stamping. And they're that hammer that was beating down their opponents. It's the same thing with America. America is the same way. America has been at war more than she's been at peace. Brothers have done the research of how many years America was in power and how many years they've been at war in comparison to the years that they were not at war. And the majority of the time they've been at war. So that's that ancient Roman Empire coming back again, doing the same exact thing that they did back then, 2,000 years ago, stamping out the people. So it says, bring down one's foot heavily on the ground, or on something on the ground. And this is a good one too, because it's impress a pattern or mark, and that's pretty much what they do. They leave their mark upon these nations too, especially an official one. On a surface, object, or document using an engraved or inked block, tip, or die, or other instrument. All right. So going back, when we read that again, it says, it devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns, right? Those 10 horns represent the EU. Back then, it represented the ancient names of those horns back then, which were allied to Rome. Now you had the Suevi, you had the Heruli, you had the Vandals, you had the Heruli, if I didn't mention those already. You had the Ostrogoths, the Visigoths, the Franks, the Alemanni. I'm not sure if I mentioned the Anglo-Saxons and the Gauls. I believe that might be all 10 of them. You know, so you had ancient names back then. You know, today the names differ. You know, you had to get the 10. I don't have the list readily available on me. You know, but you brothers know. You know the 10 the 10 horns that make up these members of this union that the scriptures speak about. All right, so it says, and it had 10 horns, right? So moving on down, it says, I considered the horns, and behold, we kind of went through that already, but let's read it again. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, which is America. This little horn is different from the little horn in the book of Daniel 8. Before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots, which was the Spanish, the French, and the British. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. And that's what Esau does, man. They speak great things. They have a pompous attitude and a pompous mind state. Let me see. This is Daniel chapter 7. Let's see. Matter of fact, I'm just going straight to the point. Daniel 7:23. It says, Then he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, Roman Empire, which shall be diverse from all the kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth. And back then, the Roman Empire didn't devour the whole earth, but they did eventually when they came back through America and her allies. And shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And that's exactly what they did. That's the hammer of the whole earth, which pretty much is stamping the people of the planet, you know, to conform to the ways of America. It's called Americanization. It says, and the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise. Right, that represents the European Union, you know, the original members. Because now it's up to about 27 members or so. It says, and another shall arise after them, which is who? America. That's that little horn in Daniel 7. And he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. And we mentioned the 3 kings already. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High. And they have done that. The saints of the Most High, the Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, and think to change times and laws. And they have done that. They have changed times. They have changed laws. And they shall be given into his hand until the time of the dividing of times, which is 350 years. You know, and those of you that have been studying, you know, that represents the time from when they brought the bulk of the slaves to America, around 1619 or so, all the way 350 years later would be 1969, which just so happened to be the year when this truth really started to take, you know, root on the planet. And it started very small. Started with a man named Eldar Bivens. He had, you know, he had students under him, and out of all the students that he had under him, only 3, you know, remained that he chose to push this knowledge that we teach today on his deathbed, because he went out to Jersey and he taught in Jersey, and then coward ass Muslims beat him down. He was in his 80s. And they beat him down to within an inch of his life, and pretty much he ended up dying in the hospital. But before that, he called, those three men to his bedside, as far as I remember, and pretty much passed the torch on to them and told them that they were going to be the ones that was going to, keep teaching the word. So they did wear out the saints of the Most High. It was given into their hand for 350 years. That 350 years was up in 1969. And that's around the time when this truth started really flourishing. And that's around the same time that America really started to fall. So there was a lot of things that took place in that year of 1969, which is a very heavy year, for prophecy. It says, but the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion to consume and destroy it unto the end. Right, and this is why you see these things happening, because they're taking away the dominion of Esau right now. That's why, the hammer of the whole earth has been broken asunder, as we read here in the book of Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 23. Let's read that again. So how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations? Right, because that's ultimately what's going to happen. Then it says, I have laid a snare for thee. So the Lord got you in a trick bag. He got you in a trap. In the book of the book of Psalms. Matter of fact, I got it here, Psalm 73. Let's see if I can find it. If not, then I'll just go the other way. Right, Psalm 73:18. Surely thou didst set them in slippery places. Thou castedest them down into destruction. So the Lord set these devils up in slippery places. That's why the 17 verses, until I went into the sanctuary of the Most High, then I understood their end. Because they had a beginning, and now they have an end, just like any other empire. We're in the waning years of Esau's empire. And the scripture said that surely thou didst set them in slippery places. So the Lord set these devils in a slippery place. Here it is, they were able to consume their lust and their greed, and taking down these nations and taking their resources. But pretty much that was a very slippery slope that they climbed up. Now they're at the point now where they got to pay. That's why the Lord said also that they didn't consider their latter end of all of the mischief that they were doing, because they thought that the Most High was with them at one time. Thou castest them down into destruction. How are they brought into desolation? As in a moment they are utterly consumed with terrors. And that's what we're going to witness. Because whenever you hear of any type of disaster, people get scared. I was watching a video, I'm not sure if somebody sent me a video on Instagram, where there was this, it was calm, and all of a sudden the water just came up, crashed up onto the beach, I think it was, but it just kept overflowing into the streets. And the one guy that was filming, oh my God, oh Jesus, oh Lord, oh God, oh Jesus, oh Jesus, oh God. And he was running down the street, oh Lord, he's still filming, oh Jesus, oh Lord, God, And that was just that. So imagine when all hell and chaos starts breaking out, and they start sounding the alarm that Russia and other nations launch their missiles at America. Can you imagine the horror that's going to be in these people's minds? It says men's hearts failing them for fear, for looking at those things that are coming upon the earth. So these devils are in some serious times, but they never really considered that at the latter end. So they're still doing and still being wicked, still ripping people off, still killing people, still murdering, and doing all different types of underhanded shit in the world, and not considering that they're going to be judged eventually for all of that. It says, how are they brought into desolation? As in a moment they are utterly consumed with terrors, as a dream when one awaketh. So, O Lord, when thou awakest, thou shalt despise their image, because that's what they're trying to establish. They're trying to establish their image, which they are establishing it on the earth. And their image begins with the ancient Roman Empire being established like it was before. And America is pushing that. And then they're trying to cement it through this so-called New World Order. So the Hebrew word there is tazalam for image. Image of tumors, mice, heathen gods, image, likeness, or resemblance, right? And the image or the likeness of resemblance is what? Them being set up as the ancient Roman Empire. And everything mirrors Rome here. You know, from the way that they, you know, set up the Senate House, the presidents, the laws are written, you know, in Latin. You know, you have Roman numerals. I mean, everything, the governmental buildings are all stylized like the ancient Roman Empire with the Roman pillars, so on and so forth. Because their whole way of you know, officiating law is established as the ancient Roman Empire was. All right, let's see what else we got there. Okay. Becca, we read that, we read this. So back in Jeremiah 50 and 24, I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou wast not aware. Thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. So you're gonna be severely dealt with. Inside joke, but true, because the Lord is going to annihilate you for your pomposity. The Lord hath opened his armory. What is the Lord's armory? Those missiles. That's part of the Lord's military. And has brought forth the weapons of his indignation, which is his righteous anger. And that's how he's going to appease his anger when he brings down this devastation upon you as the final analysis or the final judgment upon you devils. For this is the work of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, the power of hosts, in the land of the Chaldees. Come against her from the utmost border, right, of Russia and her allies. Open her storehouses, cast her up as heaps, and destroy her utterly. Let nothing of her be left, because there will be nothing, there won't be a blade of grass left here in America. This place is going to be totally annihilated, taken out, demolished, destroyed. You know, it's going to be gone forever and ever and ever, 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 ever. Never again will this place ever be inhabited ever again. Just bear with me 1 second. Right, it's this Jeremiah 51:56, because the spoiler is come upon her, which represents these missiles, Yahushua, the angels, the missiles, even upon Babylon, and her mighty men are taken. Every one of their bows is broken, because your defense mechanism is not going to work. You know, you're not going to be able to stop this onslaught that the Lord is going to bring upon you. For the Lord power of recompenses shall surely be quite. And I will make drunk her princes and her wise men, her captains and her rulers, and her mighty men. This goes with Isaiah, the 34th chapter. And they shall sleep a perpetual sleep and not wake, means death, saith the King, whose name is Yahweh of hosts. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the broad walls of Babylon shall be utterly broken, and the high gates shall be burnt with fire, right? Because everything that you have is going to be destroyed. You know, everything, you know, all your possessions, you know, your strongholds, your pentagons, all that's going to be taken out. All of your forts. And the people shall labor in vain, and the folk in the fire, and they shall be weary. Okay? And there was some more. Just bear with me 1 second. There was one more thing I wanted to bring out. Just bear with me 1 second. If not, then we could, you know, end it there, because the point is pretty much made. Right, you know what? Let me just go straight to the point. Right here, Jeremiah 50 and 46. At the noise of the taking of Babylon, the earth is moved, because the earth is going to reel to and fro like a drunkard. And the cry is heard among the nations, because remember, they're going to be standing afar off for fear of her torment. saying, alas, alas, that great city Babylon for 1 hour is such riches come to naught. You know, so this place is gonna go out with a bang. There has never been a devastation or a destruction the way this is gonna be. You know, this is that time of trouble that the Lord spoke about. And in the midst of all of that, the Lord said he's gonna deliver his elect. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Till the next time I say, Shalom.